It definitely feels good to walk away from a win without an ounce of guilt behind it. We'll recap the game where the Pack hosted the Raiders, as well as preview the upcoming battle against Kansas City. Plus, we'll hear comments from you, the community, all next on your Packers Fan Podcast.
Thanks again for joining in on another victory-themed Packers Fan Podcast episode. I'm Wayne Henderson, and this Packers Fan Podcast is the show by and for fans, that's right, of your 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers. And let's just say it was awfully nice having a relaxing fourth quarter for a change.
Yeah, it was. I think I texted you and said, "Hey, isn't this what you were asking for? Being up by more than one score in the finale? You got what you wanted, man."
It feels good.
It is episode 188, recorded October 21st, 2019. I'm Scott Clark, and I'm happy to say I proudly wore my victory tie to work today.
Yes.
The Pack are 6-1. Is that any good? I think it's pretty good. 6-1 is pretty good. Also, Aaron Rodgers is the Oprah Winfrey of the NFL. You get a touchdown. You get a touchdown. Everybody gets touchdowns. We'll also have our results from our weekly Twitter and Facebook poll question.
And it's now on to week 8 already. And our Packers are singing that old classic, I'm going to Kansas City. Kansas City, here I come.
You got to sing it, man. If you're going to put that in there, you got to sing it.
Oh, no. You don't want to hear that. As always, our favorite part of the show, your great listener feedback from 920-3PACK-GO and from social media. And of course, show notes will be at PackersFanPodcast.com. So let's go over some of the highlights and then maybe a couple lowlights from that huge victory over the Oakland Raiders at Lambeau Field.
Let's start with that sweet TD pass to Aaron Jones. How amazing was that play just all together? Because number one, Jones has been getting a lot of balls in the air this game, which I love to see. But I just can't even fathom how that play came together. It was over the shoulder, granted it was single coverage, just an absolutely gorgeous play. I watched that on repeat multiple times.
It was so good to see, especially after some of the troubles that Aaron had last week, Aaron Jones, that is, with drops and missing some passes coming his way. So he got his redemption, and it was a beauty. The touchdowns, like you alluded to earlier, Scott, they were all over the place. Jake Kummerow, I believe this was his first ever regular season game touchdown, and he was tiptoeing all the way in.
I will say I love watching that play, but I still don't know if we should have earned that one, man. I know they reviewed it because his foot was on the line, man. I think we got away with one on that one, but it was not a game-breaking one because the chances of us scoring on that drive anyway were probably high. It was he went out of bounds within the 10, so it wasn't a deal breaker by any means. But I still think I don't think he earned that TD, man.
Oh, he would have just got it on the next play.
Exactly.
And plus, we won by like 3 scores or more. And we're not going to share it on the podcast because, we're about the positivity here. But right after the game, I got a brief profanity-filled voicemail from obviously a Raiders fan congratulating us on paying off the refs and them giving us the game again. There is no question the refs had nothing to do with this victory.
No, outside of that play that I mentioned, where we did get a score, which, like you said, we probably would have got in the next series, but we won this game. I spoke last week about how I felt we were kind of handed the game against the Lions and didn't deserve that one. We deserved this win. Our quarterback had a perfect quarterback rating. He had 6 touchdowns. I mean, we won this game. Not only that, but Derek Carr, your quarterback, fumbled the ball into the end zone. I mean, you can't do that in a game like this. So I do not agree that the refs won this game for us, that they were paid off.
Only a Raiders fan that's out of touch with reality would think different. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's actually the second time Derek Carr has tried holding the ball out in his left hand, going over the goal line, and it just never works for him. And that is the same drive where we marched down all the way the other way. Jake Kummerow, touchdown. And so that kind of made the Raiders pay dearly for that fumble.
Absolutely. Not only that, fullback Danny Vitale stepping up his game on this week as well. What did you think of his performance?
I thought it was fantastic. I'm not very familiar with Danny Vitale.
Me either.
But in this particular game, we saw a fair amount from him. And just when you thought the Packers were done with fullbacks, here we go. It was good.
I love that we're seeing all these fresh names that are just making a name for themselves. At the midpoint of the season here, Lazard is proving himself there.
Mm-hmm.
I can never remember how to actually pronounce it, but MVS. I know he's been there for a couple years, but I love that Rodgers is throwing the ball all over the place, even without Devontae Adams there, which was a lot of fun to see.
Yeah, for anybody that thinks that we are just the Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams show, the other guys stepped up and let people know what is what, because it was good to see. Yeah, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, he was all over. And the biggest shock of the day, Jimmy Graham. He picked a great day to have his best game in years. Literally years.
Yeah, it's nice to see him catch the ball. Apparently he put that stickum stuff on. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. If you're playing against the Raiders, since they were definitely the kings of the stickum back in the 70s, why not?
Yeah.
But yeah, Jimmy Graham, he was making plays. He was making catches. He was earning his keep this week, and I'm very thankful. Thank you, Jimmy Graham.
And lumbering down the field when he does it, which was hilarious to see. He's a big dude.
I still think he's faster than Eddie Lacy in the final season.
Oh wow! I could say some things about Eddie Lacy, but I will keep them to myself. He's not playing this season with us. So, but I mentioned Rodgers earlier with this perfect quarterback rating, which I'm still completely perplexed by this whole notion. I actually decided to look up how the quarterback rating is calculated to try to get a feel for what this goes, because I heard the word perfect, and to me, perfect means no errors.
Right.
Obviously, there were passes that were not completed. So in my mind, that's not perfect. So I wanted to figure out how this was calculated. I wish I could tell you, man. I studied this sheet to try to figure it out. There are so many insane calculations. You're going to divide this by 3, subtract over here.
Carry the one, right? Carry the one.
It's crazy. And I teach math. Granted, I teach math to 4th graders, but there was there was some crazy algorithms going on there that I just gave up. But needless to say, he did get a perfect passer rating. And I did learn that it does have to do with just passing. So his rushing touchdown played no effect whatsoever on his passer. It is purely a passer rating, not a quarterback rating.
And to make it even more complicated is the fact that when it's a quote unquote perfect quarterback rating, it's not an even number like 100 or
right.
anything.
Well, we're in America. We don't like numbers that end in 0 for some reason. So,
So basically you're saying if it was converted into the metric system, it would probably be a nice round even number.
Yeah, like 100. So
1,000, a million.
What is it? Like 158.3, I think is the number.
Something like that.
It's nuts.
You got to love the Lambeau faithful, especially that Packers fan in the end zone wearing the Reggie White jersey. Dude was straight up channeling the late, great Reggie White by totally stopping that Oakland Raider that tried doing his own Lambeau leap by proactively shoving him back down. That was a highlight I watched at least 6 or 7 times.
Well, and there's multiple reasons for that being a thing, because if you remember, the Lambeau leap was spawned back in the 90s during a Raiders game. And if you remember the play that I'm talking about, Leroy Butler's the one, and Reggie White is actually the one that pitched the ball back to Leroy Butler, who ran it in for a score and did the first ever Lambeau leap. So, and he was wearing a Reggie White jersey. There's no way he was going to he was going to do the Minister of Defense a failure by letting that Raider fan jump in the stands and do that. So kudos to him. It was great.
On the downside, injuries again.
It's just the story of our defense this year, and that's kind of what I am chalking up our less than perfect showing on the defensive side. Is we're just getting beat up like crazy, which is good, because that means they're working hard and they're doing their job. But we got another little over a half a season left to go, and we need to keep these guys healthy.
Yeah, we didn't seem to see as many people going off the field as in weeks past. But as soon as I saw Kenny Clark get a shin injury, I was like, no. And of course, I do believe he came back into the game, and we don't have any updates on how serious it is. It's very well could be one of those things that he's just going to play through. But couldn't make it out 100% without any injuries at all. But so you're saying the defense wasn't spot on yesterday against the Raiders?
I didn't have nearly as much problem with them as a lot of people in our community did. I mean, they didn't quite make as many stops, and I know that Jacobs was definitely making his way up and down the field, but we still held them to more than 2 scores below ours. So we didn't have as many explosive turnovers as we had last week, but technically we stopped them in the red zone when Derek Carr dropped that ball trying to cross the line. So nobody's given the defense credit on that one. They're just chalking that one up to Derek Carr fumbling it, but he would have been able to cross that line if the defense had let him. So,
and another confusing thing, more slipping on the field by multiple players on both sides.
It's
when
dry.
Lambeau Field is dry. They say, I mean, they picked it up. They talked about the grass and it's dry. Is it just a case of trying out the wrong cleats? Is something going on with the field?
I really wish I could tell you, because I was seeing it more and more, not quite as much as last week, but holy cow, what's we got to put stick them on the shoes now? Is that what we're going to have to do?
There is an idea. Of course, by the time the Packers get back to Lambeau Field, it's going to be 3 weeks from now, something like that. So the weather could change. Well, it's not going to be frozen tundra, but it very well could be a little bit rainy and drizzly and extra slippery.
Oh yeah, we're gonna be definitely getting into the heart of real football when it comes to the weather conditions, and I can't wait. Bring on the snow.
Yeah. And let's bring on the listener feedback. The Packers Fan Podcast G-Force gave us calls at 9203-PACK-GO.
Go, Pack, go! We finally got our blowout win. AR-12 made a statement game, establishing once again why he is the king of the North, shutting up all the naysayers, saying that he's past his prime, saying that he's not coachable, and that him and LaFleur aren't on the same page. Bunch of nonsense. Get out of here with that nonsense. I said nonsense again. But anyways, wow. Amazing offensive performance. We got to see what this offense looks like when it's clicking on all cylinders. I'm loving it. Love the game. It was great to feel comfortable during a Packers game for once. Can't say enough things about the offensive play, but wow. It's great play all around. Rodgers shared the love. Running backs having to play receivers quite a bit, but hey, that's kind of what you have to do when we got the injuries we got. But as was said by the announcers multiple times during the game, it was it'll be amazing to see if we keep playing at that caliber on offense, and then we get Devontae back, we're going to be a force to be reckoned with for sure. So. Defensive side of the ball, definitely concerning. I think I mentioned it in my Facebook post, but it just seems like our defense started super strong, obviously, in the season, and overall, definitely still much improved, compared to the Capers days. Despite the struggles they had today, they made stops when they needed to in the red zone. I think our red zone defense is the best I've seen in a while, but still a concern. Towards the end, the announcers did make a good point. If we play a team if they play that way against a team that can really score points, it'll be kind of concerning. But overall, though, I feel like they can iron those kinks out, and once they can, and we can actually put a complete game together on both sides of the ball, we're going to the Super Bowl, baby. I'm still feeling like we're going to the Super Bowl. It's a good game. So. Question is who that dude in the suit was at the end arguing with LaFleur. Don't know who that was. Don't know what that was about. But all in all, green and gold till dead and gold.
Thanks so much, Jared, for the voicemail. I do appreciate it. I actually really like what you said about the defense. There is reason to be a bit concerned, but I think you brought up a good point that compared to what we had in the past under Dom Capers, we are looking much, much better. This feels like a more cohesive team on both sides of the ball, and I think we don't have a whole lot to complain about. Just some minor issues. And like you said, when Devontae gets back, we've got so many weapons at this point. It's just I feel like if you're on fantasy football, You just put a bunch of Packers wide receivers in your team, and you're gonna be just fine. So, and as far as the guy in the suit, I have no idea who was talking to LaFleur. I don't think I even remember seeing that. I was too excited, furiously texting my buddies about the game. So
now I definitely did see that man in the suit. I couldn't tell for sure if he was arguing or what was going on, but the whole thing was just really, really strange. It made no sense. And at first I thought the guy was in a costume, like he was channeling Vince Lombardi, but it was not that authentic of, a costume, I suppose you could say, but it was
the guy from the State Farm commercials, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't even him. That would have been a good guess, though. And that would have been a good person to, bring in the television commercial world and slap it into Lambeau Field. But no. But let me tell you, I'm pretty excited about the fact that you are also on board, Jared, with Super Bowl. It could happen.
I'm a firm believer that I think this coming week could be a preview of this year's Super Bowl.
A rematch of Super Bowl I, Packers Chiefs?
For the 100th season? Isn't this the 100th season?
This is the 100th season. 101st season for the Packers, 100th season for the NFL.
Yeah, I think that would be awesome.
I guess we shouldn't speak too soon, but let's check back and see who else gave us a call at 920-3-PACK-GO.
Go, Pack, go. Go, Pack, go. Andre in LA. Another great win. I believe we are, 6-1 now? I love what I saw today. I actually like the fact that, because at first I was a little worried, why are we not running the ball more, especially we have a huge lead. But it's clear the Raiders' strategy was, let's stop the run, not worry about the pass, and Aaron Rodgers went into absolute GOAT mode. He caught fire. It was very impressive to see. The defense, they got caught with their pants down a couple times in the middle of the field. I don't know if that's an issue with the linebacking core as far as keeping up with the coverage, something to keep an eye out for. But I really liked what I saw from the team today. They kept their composure. I like some of the Jimmy Graham finally started catching the ball. Way to earn that money after 3 years. Very pleased with that. Kevin King, another big interception. I believe it's the third one of the year. This was just an overall great win. J.K. Scott booted the ball a lot today. So just a beautiful, beautiful win. Just want to hear your thoughts. Love the podcast. Green and Gold, so I'm Dead and Cold. Andre in LA. Go, Pack, go.
Go, Pack, go indeed, Andre. Thanks again for giving us a call and sharing your thoughts with us. And yeah, it was a little bit nerve-wracking at the very beginning because before I blinked, the Raiders were marching down the field and we were letting, passes get caught right in the middle. And it was like, no shades of last year and the year before, but we shored things up once we got things going. And Scott, were you a little bit worried that we weren't doing very many running plays in the first quarter?
I was at first because if you remember my keys to victory from last week was I wanted us to run the ball a lot more. And I still, as I'm going to get to later in this episode on our keys to victory, I'd still like to see it spread out a little bit, but it's really hard to argue with the scoreboard and the results that Rodgers put in with the air on this game. So whatever gets us the W, man, I'm perfectly happy. And what do I know? Sitting here behind a microphone. So they're doing it. Let's just keep it going.
Hi, Wayne and Scott. This is David from Virginia. Just wanted to call and give a great go, Pack, go. What a great win today. Offense clicked. This is the best game Rodgers played in years. It seems like he's really starting to click in this offense. And I think as much as he probably misses Devontae Adams, I think these past few weeks without him has been a blessing in disguise, given that now he has to have trust in his other receivers. And it really showed today how much he's starting to put trust in everyone. Really nice to see. I think I only saw one drop in this game. But other than that, everyone played really well. I know the defense didn't play that great. Had some big turnovers the big one at the end of the half, and then the interception at the end that really just kind of sealed the game for them. I really think they do miss Darnell Savage. I don't know how long he is supposed to be out. Hopefully they can get him back against Kansas City. Really looking forward to that matchup too. I really, really would like to see Patrick Mahomes. I don't think he is going to play in that game, but I do like seeing the Packers play teams at their best. But once again, another great win, and looking forward to a big matchup against Kansas City next week. Go Pack, go!
Thanks so much, David, for the voicemail. Do appreciate it. I love what you said about AR12 clicking with the new offense. And one thing that we haven't really considered too much even here on this show is we're forgetting that Aaron Rodgers didn't play any in the preseason at all. Obviously he's been in the practice field with the team, but there's something to be said about actual game time experience with the new guys. And it is nice to see that that's coming together, even if it has taken us 7 weeks to get there. I'll take it, especially with the record that we've got. I kind of agree with you too about Davante's absence being a blessing in disguise. Not that I wish any ill will on Davante Adams, and I would have much rather had him in the game at the start of the game, but we definitely, it's given him opportunities to click with the other guys, which has been very awesome to see. So thanks so much, David. I really liked your thoughts there, man.
Absolutely. And to your point, Scott, about Aaron Rodgers not playing much in the preseason, I think that showed in the first couple of games where he was a bit rusty. The team was a bit rusty. We were getting wins, but that Bears game was not a complete blowout. But I'm just thankful
we were getting wins because of our defense.
Exactly. The defense was saving our bacon, which is a phrase you're newly acquainted with.
Saving our bacon, man. I think Charlie Brown called. He wants his phrase back. It's got to be somewhere in the Peanuts comics.
It's a classic. I'll give you that. David, thanks again for giving us a call. Let's check in and see what Art has to say all the way from Texas.
Wayne and Scott, Art from Texas. A great game for the Pack. Man, I'm so happy with the depth we have at the receiver position. It's awesome. I was wondering, what do you guys think about when Davante Adams gets back? I really like the way Aaron Rodgers is distributing the ball to different receivers. I think it's very effective. I hope that when Davante Adams gets back, he continues distributing the ball. Because, I can't, name a single receiver who's not very capable. The defense did a great job. I think that maybe at times they were giving the receiver too much cushion, a lot of open gaps. That their receivers were making completions. But overall, the defense did very, very well. Just wondering what your thoughts are. Thank you very much for the podcast. And green and gold, London and gold. Go Pack, go.
Thank you very much for giving us a call, Art. Always good to hear from you. Yes, go Pack, go, right back at you. And yes, very, very happy with the depth that we have at wide receiver this year. And great to even see Jake Kumaro getting in on the action finally. Whether or not the white stripe might have folded over and touched it, I don't know. Doesn't matter. But you bring up a great point, Art, about when Davante Adams does come back from his turf toe injury, will Aaron Rodgers still share the wealth in the passing game and give it to all the players, or is he going to go back to his reliable Davante Adams? What do you think?
Well, I think he's going to go wherever it's working. I mean, it's not like he's going to go throw every single pass to Davante Adams, especially if the defense, covers him appropriately. If they're double teaming him or something like that, it's going to depend on what the defense is doing. But I like the idea of distributing the ball and keeping the defense guessing as to where he's going to go with the ball. And as far as our depth goes, whose name we didn't see this week was Ryan Grant, who just got signed last week back in the team, and that's another weapon that we haven't even considered. So our depth is just, I feel like it's deeper than it's been in a long time. I mean, even back in the day, Jordy Nelson and Cobb and all that, there was a handful of names that we saw every week. There was 8 names on the screen yesterday when I was watching this game of different targets that he had, and it's just nuts, and I love it.
It is so good to see, and you're right. I think Ryan Grant just had to change so much from the Raiders playbook to the Packers playbook and just needs a little bit more time to get comfortable with the whole system. But it brings up a point with the trade deadline just, a few days away. Do you think the Packers are going to make any other moves? Maybe try to get another wide receiver?
I think if they're going to go for anything, they need to go for something on the ground beforehand. I mean, I know Jamal Williams is doing really well. Aaron is doing really well, but let's build up more depth on that side of the ball, because I want to be just as strong with our running game as we are with the passing game.
Because I do know there are some teams that are, they're not out of it. Nobody's out of it yet mathematically, but they do have some wide receivers. I forget the names but I heard some people talking about maybe the Packers should go after them. But I think at this point, especially after getting Ryan Grant from the Raiders, and Devontae is eventually going to be back, but even if it takes him a few more weeks, we do have an embarrassment of riches. You can't just roll out there with Aaron Rodgers, 2 running backs, and 12 wide receivers.
Oh man, that would be a fun game to watch. Can we just play like backyard football in the NFL for 1 week, see what happens?
Replace the O-line with nothing but tight ends and wide receivers.
Oh, let's do it. That sounds like great time. Everybody just doing wideouts, all the defense going out with the receivers. That sounds fantastic.
It does sound fantastic, but I fear for Aaron Rodgers' life if we try doing that.
Oh, yeah, he'd be running backwards, just doing nothing but Hail Marys the whole game. But, oh, man.
It's a highlight reel on every play. Got one more call that came in. Let's see what's going on with Mark.
Hey, guys, it's Mark from New Lisbon. Always a pleasure to call after a win. And just to be 6-1 is great. You could really debate if we're the best team in the NFC. And with the Eagles and Detroit, Seattle, and the Bears all losing, we're right up there. So it's a great time to be a Packer fan. Just some positives from the game. I just love our offense now. It's taken a while to get into a groove, but I just think Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams are such a dynamite combination. They make the passing game go because teams have to respect our running backs, and even Vitale had a big play for us. So I love the running backs. Both Jones and Williams hit pay dirt on Sunday, so that was great. And what really makes our offense go, other than A-Rod, of course, is our offensive line, which is just having such a good year and quietly having a good year. Bakhtari and Balaga are just outstanding as tackles. I think A-Rod even commented after the game that that's the cleanest pocket he's had in years. And you just got to give so much credit to the unheralded guys on the offensive line. And I even think Jones and Williams appreciate how good the O-line is. So kudos to those guys and the coaches for just performing so well week after week. And it seems like A-Rod and LaFleur just have really good symmetry and synergy. And it seems like it's only going to get better when Adams comes back. It was just a fun game to watch. I mean, to score 42 points was great. So also another kind of underrated, under the radar guy, Blake Martinez, quietly had 16 tackles, and I don't know if Packer fans know this, but he leads the NFL in tackles with 76. So he's, headed for a Pro Bowl possibly. Some of my Packer friends were getting down on the defense, and, they gave up some chunk plays, but, basically they allowed 17 points. There was kind of a garbage touchdown at the end. And I think the defense is really good. I think the Rams are supposed to have the best defense in the NFL, and they gave up 51 to Tampa Bay a couple weeks ago. So even good defenses have off days, but it's great to be 6-1. I love the podcast, and thanks for letting me share my thoughts, and go Pack Go.
Thanks, Mark, so much. And I really love what you said about the offensive line, and thanks for bringing it up because we are not giving those guys enough credit. Rodgers has had so much time back there behind the line, and it's been so great to see. I feel like normally I'm yelling at them, give him some time back there. He's got all the time in the world, and I love it. And I also love that everybody at the beginning of the season was worried about LaFleur and Rodgers' chemistry together. And, Rodgers doesn't take orders well, and he wants to run the team. I feel like we haven't seen even a shred of animosity between the two of them this entire season. It's been fantastic to see, and kudos to LaFleur, man. What a great start to his head coaching position here with the Packers.
Amen to that. And here's to clean pockets.
Got to get that lint out of there.
Yeah, you don't want that up in the charging port of your phone. No, that's not good at all. And Blake Martinez, 76 tackles. I had no idea he was that far in the lead.
I didn't either. That's an impressive stat for sure.
Yeah, so Mark, thank you yet again for giving us a call. It's always good to hear from you and share your thoughts. Before we dig into some of the other listener feedback, just want to do a quick shout out to my buddy Mark DeCote from podcastbranding.co up in Canada. He created our podcast's album artwork logo a few years ago. It was one of his first jobs when he decided to focus his design work on podcast logos. So if you are starting your own podcast or want to update your own podcast, anybody listening that wants to get into podcasting, Mark DeCote at podcastbranding.co is the man. I mean, not only is he a podcaster and a designer, so he knows the needs of podcasters. This is not a paid ad. I just felt it was time to give him his due again. He does great work. And we all started back in the day with Under the Dome podcast, if you remember that fabulous Stephen King TV show.
Fabulous? Really? I've heard otherwise.
Well, the first couple episodes.
Okay, there you go. Let's go ahead and move on, do some emails. Our first one comes from Caleb, Kathy, and Roy Fisher from Green Bay, Wisconsin, and they say, "Hey, Wayne and Scott, how awesome was that win against the Raiders? We can hardly believe how great the Packers were on offense. Also, happy to see that Aaron Rodgers is starting to look like the old Aaron Rodgers. We are proud Packers fans today. Until next time, gentlemen, the Fishers are saying, go, Pack, go, bleed green and gold till dead and cold. Caleb, Kathy, and Roy Fisher."
Excellent. Also got an email from Steven from Palos Park, Illinois. Here it is, the 7th game of the season, and the Packers played their first 5 of 7 at home with only 2 road games. And now for the next 2 weeks, we are on the road. Scott, was your mouth watering from all the mentions of Culver's and the cheese curds?
No, not quite. But again, it's right down the street. I can just go get some. I'm gonna have to do that this week
before the watering really kicks in.
There you go.
Hopefully the Packers will have a lot more wins by the time we are at our bye week, which is week 11 of this season. Wayne and Scott, do you want to predict what the Packers record will look like going into the bye? And I'll take that one right off the bat because obviously we're going to win the rest of the games before the bye. And
so 10-1 is what you're saying, right?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
I'm going to say 9-2.
Now, wait a minute.
We'll get there. Slow your roll.
Okay.
Slow your roll.
Okay. Spoilers. Anyway, Stephen continues. It's always the best part of the week when listening to the newest episode of the Packers Fan Podcast.
Woo woo.
Nice. Thank you very much for that. Good to hear from you. Now, of course, this coming week, the Packers play Sunday night, late Sunday night. And although we would love to be able to give you even more time to get in your voicemails, since Scott and I both have day jobs, we don't get any extra time to prep the show. So the deadline to get your voicemails and emails in to be part of the podcast next week will be within a few hours of the game ending. The sooner, the better. In fact, this past week, we got 2 of our voicemails within 10 minutes of the game ending. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So, even though Sunday night's game isn't going to give you much lead time, we do want to hear from you. So keep this phone number handy right there on your speed dial, 920-3PACK-GO. And although Google does cut off the voicemails at 3 minutes, if you have a lot more great stuff to say, just call right back. And through the magic of editing, I'll put it all together. So thank you for your support, your feedback, and of course, Go Pack Go. And speaking of Go Pack Goes, our weekly Twitter poll, also available in the Packers Fan Podcast community. Good question this week, and we got some good write-in votes. Even without Patrick Mahomes, likely not to play, next Sunday night's Packers at Chiefs game is extremely important to both teams. How do our Packers best ensure a victory in Kansas City? And the choices: keep doing what we're doing. Defense must play better. Run the ball more. Or the Packers will need 6 touchdowns again.
If we need 6 touchdowns again, then We might as well go back to our second one here. Defense must play better.
Which one gets your vote before we get into your keys to victory in a little bit?
Man, it's
if you had to pick just one,
keep doing what we're doing, or keep doing what we did this week. Because if we play like we did this last week, I don't think there's any stopping us. So let's just have a repeat.
All right. Well, 39% of the voters agreed with that sentiment, saying keep doing what we're doing. 47% coming in strong with the defense must play even better. I think that's a fair option there. 7% run the ball more, and 3% of the voters did agree the Packers will need 6 TDs or more again this week. Now, some of the write-in votes, they both got 2% of the votes. Josh added, run the Wildcat.
I'll take it. I would totally take it.
I can't believe I didn't think of throwing that one in there because that is a good option. And Peter bringing the snark with chat with the refs.
Yeah. We got one with the refs already. Can we let it go? Can we move on?
That was not due to the refs.
Been over that.
Scoreboard. I thought you said you can't argue with the scoreboard.
Can't argue with the scoreboard, man.
So with that, Sunday night is coming. Your 6-1 Green Bay Packers play their last home game for a while at Lambeau Field, headed to Kansas City to play the 5-2 Chiefs Sunday, October 27th at 7:20 p.m. Central. The Chiefs are the second of 3 AFC West teams that we play in a row. And after this game in Kansas City, Green Bay flies out to California to play the LA Chargers. I still can't get used to calling them the LA Chargers. That's beside the point. And although we would like to have Davante Adams back for this game, the Chiefs would surely like to have Patrick Mahomes back even more so. So with or without AR-12's Mahomie from the insurance commercials, Arrowhead Stadium is going to be red, and it is going to be loud. One of the top 3 loudest stadiums in the NFL. We need to be ready for that. And here's the shocking thing. I'm always shocked when I see things go this direction. All time, the Kansas City Chiefs lead the series against the Packers. They lead the series. I didn't know any team led the series against the Packers. But
of course you don't. How could the Packers ever lose at anything in your mind, man?
All time? I'm 101st season. So the Chiefs lead the series 7-4-1. So let's close that gap, shall we?
Well, you got to remember, one of those losses is my fault because that was the game where I did not see kickoff. It was against the Kansas City Chiefs, so one of them is on me.
So in reality, Scott, we would be 7-5 if it weren't for you, according to your wife.
Right, 7-5. No, we'd be 8-3-1.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. The math. You are the math teacher.
It's like, how do we get an extra loss? Carry the one, Wayne.
Oh, I need to remember what I preach. But the game time weather is going to be very, very nice indeed. Mostly cloudy, around 50 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 10 degrees Celsius. So not too shabby for a night in Kansas City. Of course, between now and Sunday night, who knows? Weather forecasters can be grossly off the mark. So we'll have to wait and see.
Well, let's go ahead and move on to our keys to a 7th Packers victory. And here's what I've got for you. My number one thing, just do what you did against the Raiders. I know it seems cliche to say, but this is the first game of the season where I feel like both the offense and defense were clicking. Sure, the defense could have done a better job at stopping, but it sure felt good to be up by multiple scores in the final quarter of the game. Let's strike hard and fast in the opening drives and put the Chiefs to bed early, please. Also, treat this game like a home game. I know that we're 6-1 so far, but 5 of those games have been on our own turf. This is the start of some tougher road battles that we've got coming. And as Wayne mentioned, there's going to be a lot of red and white in the stands, but we can't let that shake us. Let's treat it like a home game. Lastly, equal distribution of the ball with both the run game and the passing game. Aaron Rodgers did prove this week that he's got quite a few more tools in his arsenal besides Davante Adams. The key to throwing off the Kansas City defense is going to lie in keeping them guessing as to where the ball is going, who it's going to on every play. Yes, 5 of our 6 touchdowns were in the air, but there needs to be a good mix with the ground game as well to keep them guessing to provide a victory. And that'll do it.
I like those. I'm going to put my hands on my computer and say, yeah. Because I think that's...
Can I get a witness?
Absolutely. That's what it's going to take. And our predictions this week, I'm going to let you dig into the math on it before we go with the tally. Who gets the victory?
You really can't subtract, can you, man?
No, it's Monday, Scott. I picked the Packers to win 24-17, a 7-point margin of victory. You picked the Packers to win 31-24, a 7-point margin of victory. The Packers obviously won 42-24. So since we both had the same margin of victory, then we got to factor in other stuff. Who gets the win? I'm guessing it was probably you, but let me know.
So here's how it works. What we do is if we both pick the same team, it's going to come down to points. And what we're doing is we're looking, in order to win, you have to have the lowest score. So you look at the difference between the score you pick for each team and add those together, whoever has the lowest number. So for me, I picked 24 points from the Raiders. They got 24 points. So that's 0 points for me. You with me so far?
So far, that was the easy part.
Okay. So with the Packers score, they scored 42. I predicted 31. So that is a differential of 11 points for me. My 11 plus my 0 is 11 points differential. So I got 11. I want the lower number. You picked 17 from the Raiders. They got 24. That's 7 points right there.
Uh-oh.
And then your difference between the Packers was 42 and 24, which makes, carry the 1, 22 points. So your 22 points plus your 7 is going to make 31 compared to my 11. So I win again this week.
Okay, so I'm changing yours. You are now leading the series all time.
It helps when you nail one of the points exactly right. I think it's the second time this season I've done that, isn't it?
That does help a lot.
Yeah.
So you lead 4-2. You combine those two, that's 42. That's how many points the Packers had. And let's get to the tricky one, because on the road against the Chiefs, how do you think the Packers are going to do?
I think they're going to put up a good showing, but I still think, and you're going to cringe at me here, Wayne. I can see the dagger staring through my monitor right here. I think the Chiefs are going to run away with this one. Chiefs are going to have 34. Packers are going to have 28.
Is this thing on? Now wait a minute.
You want to strangle me so much every time I pick against
strangling. But as far as I know, Patrick Mahomes is not going to be there this week.
You're right, and I think that does give us an edge. But there's a lot more going on in Kansas City besides their star quarterback. They've got a very well-rounded team on both sides of the ball, and I think it's going to be very tough. You look at this last week; they still destroyed the opponent without Mahomes. So
yeah, but look at the opponent. It was not the Green Bay Packers.
It wasn't the Green Bay Packers, man. But it wasn't the Dolphins either.
Well, I'll give you that. Sorry, Miami fans. Now, I am going to pick a Packers victory. Did you give the score? You said a good showing?
I did 34 Chiefs and Packers 28.
34-28. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I'm going to pick a Packers victory. I will admit, even if Patrick Mahomes was there, I was probably going to pick a Packers victory. So,
of course you were.
Of course. Now, we've got the same scores here. I'm just flipping the teams. I do see a 34-28 game, but it's going to be the Packers that have 34 points, and the Chiefs will have 28 or less at the end of the game when time runs out.
Oh, look at this. We got reciprocal scores. Look at that. I'm just saying, Wayne, I picked one game to lose. I did not get that one, but scoreboard, man, I've got 4 of these. You've got 2. So just saying, you want to talk about scoreboard? I got the scoreboard, man. Okay, I wish that our listeners could see the look in your face when I picked the Packers to lose.
Stunned.
It is. You look so confused. You look very, very confused that I would dare to pick the Packers to lose a game. But this, I think, is our toughest matchup of the entire year.
I could almost see it if, say, for example, Aaron Rodgers was out on an injury and we have an unproven backup starting the game. But
I'll tell you what, Wayne, I'll make a deal with you. If the Packers are able to pull off a victory against the Chiefs, I guarantee that as long as the Packers stay healthy for the rest of the season, I will pick the Packers to win every game the rest of the season. How about that?
Ladies and gentlemen, Packers fans around the world, you heard it right here. Let's see if he sticks to that bargain. Let's see what happens.
Like I said,
if Aaron Rodgers stays healthy.
Well, if everybody stays, not everybody, but if the team moderately stays healthy, I mean, if half our defense goes under, it's a different story.
Okay. Well, one game at a time. We did get some great listener thoughts also in our Packers Fan Podcast Facebook group at packerscommunity.com, as well as on the Facebook page. Janelle said, I give this win 158.33 Thumbs up.
That's a lot of thumbs.
In honor of whatever makes that a perfect quarterback rating. Our defense is usually amazing, but the injuries to it with Savage and so on were apparent this game. They're still doing great things, but if they could step it up just a little bit to some of their former games' glory and our offense plays like they did this week, the thought gives me chills.
Oh, I can taste it. I can taste it. Also, we got one from Peter Allison who says, how good did that feel? Am I right? Rodgers was, scratch that, the offense was just immense. Didn't matter who Rodgers called, that they made plays. Lazard picked his head up from a drop. Vitale just blowing it up. Jones, Williams, the line. I mean, literally everyone. Our D keeps showing massive problems. It blows hot and cold during the game. And if it weren't for Carr fumbling into the end zone and Rodgers just tearing the Raiders apart before and after the half, we have been denied a heart attack-packed game. On we go, back to a very winnable game against the Mahomeless. I like that, Mahomeless. Mahomeless Chiefs, meaning if we win there and our remaining home games, we should have the 10 wins we need for the playoffs. Good point.
I'm liking the sound of that. Marty Koopman, I think that there's definitely a silver lining in the fact that Davante Adams is out. He's making everyone step it up. Running backs, tight ends, and wide receivers are all on notice. And Rodgers spread it around and made it clear he's the king of the North. Go Pack, go.
Yeah, I know we mentioned that earlier, but he made a good point, too, that it wasn't just the wide receivers that were able to step up. It was everybody else as well. So a good call there. Matt Haig says, AR-12 with an absolute demolishing of the Raiders defense. Amazing performance. Thank you so much for all the comments there. Check out even more conversations happening in our Facebook group, and you can find that by going to packerscommunity.com. We got great conversations and posts, including there's a link to an article going over the brief history of the Lambeau Leap, the official NFL highlight reel from the Packers over Raiders game, and how about that amazing post-game locker room video with Aaron Rodgers and the guys? It's definitely worth watching a few more times. And there's plenty more also at packerscommunity.com.
Oh, absolutely. I forgot about that post-game locker room video, giving Aaron Rodgers the game ball and all the camaraderie and joking around, and the energy that was coming out of that room was mind-blowing.
Absolutely love it. Some general things going on in the NFL as well. How are the Buffalo Bills 5-1? Who saw that coming? Did you?
No, but I'm pretty happy about it since they're in the division with the New England Patriots.
Well, I'm pretty happy about it, too, because I picked the Bills in my survivor pool this week and barely squeaked one out. So the line was pretty big, man, and I'm still in it. I'm one of 15 people left for that $2,000. I want it. I can taste it.
Scott, that was a bold move, picking the Buffalo Bills in the Survivor League.
Well, man, you gotta save your good picks for later in the season, man. You
taught me that last week.
Yeah.
I understand now. And the Niners, they continue to beat pretty easy teams.
But they're still perfect record.
Oh, they've had their bye week and everything else. I think we're going to be just fine later when we head to Frisco.
Let's see. I got some good buddies here in town that are big Niners fans, so I think that's going to be a fun game to watch together for sure. Also, Roger Goodell says the 17-game season is part of new CBA talks. It would push back NFL's schedule. How do you feel about a 17-game schedule, man?
It seems like such an odd number to make it 17 games.
Well, we're America, man. Like I'm surprised that, why not just make it 14 and a half? I mean, you
play one game at the end and you only play the first half and then it's over.
Yeah, then it's over. Or you bring two teams together and two teams play the first half and two teams play the second half. You average off the scores together and see which one is ahead. I mean, we're America, man. We don't like zeros.
So basically, if the NFL does expand into Europe and the rest of the world and England, and we would have to make the schedule 10 games, 100 games.
Well, not only that, but we have to have meters instead of yards in the field. Right?
Uh-oh. Okay. I don't know how I feel about it. I'm sure there's a lot of good points, but the latest that I heard is, obviously there's pushback. So I'm not going to believe anything till I see a schedule come out that says week 17. I mean, it's crazy.
I'm surprised they're even really considering it, considering all the concussion talk and the toil that it's put on players' bodies. This is just purely for money. Keep it at 16. I don't even smell like MLB. That season is just entirely too long. Granted, this is only one more game, but still, let's just keep it at 16. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
And some people would say, well, if they get rid of 2 of the preseason games, that'll actually be less games. But then again, since most of the starters don't play hardly at all in the preseason, taking 2 preseason games away is just going to hurt the people that are on the bubble trying to make the team. So
Exactly.
we shall see. Taking a quick peek at the NFC North. Hey, look who's in first place. It's your 6-1 Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, you're right. And I know that somebody earlier mentioned they were happy with the Vikings win over the Lions. I got to kind of disagree. I was rooting for Detroit to take that one because that would have put the Vikings another half game behind us, give us a little more padding. So
yeah, whenever it's a team in the North and it affects our playoff standings, I'm going to root however I got to root. And it would hurt to root for the Lions, but they just didn't show up again. But on the plus side, even though the Vikings are just 1 game behind us, and we do own the tiebreaker currently as well, the Bears lost. So that's too bad that they're 3-3.
And that was a lot of fun to watch, man. I don't know what happened with Trubisky, but he just pretty much fell apart. Boy, holy cow. So feels good to be on top. Also, I want to give a quick plug. If you love to play video games as much as I do, please be sure to check out my other podcast, The Gaming Outsider, which can be heard at the same place as you listen to this one. Shortly after this episode airs, you can hear me talk about a game I'm reviewing currently called Children of Morta. That is probably going to make my top 10 list for 2019. It is that good. Our website, if you'd like to check it out, is thegamingoutsider.com. Also, I'm going to be a guest host on The Hollywood Outsider, my original podcast. It's recording tomorrow night, so in a couple days, that episode will be out as well. You'll want to check that out. Again, same place you listen to this podcast.
Do you know what you're going to be talking about on The Hollywood Outsider?
We are talking about the rules for making a sequel, as in regards to when and how a sequel should be made. That's all I know so far. I've got to do some prep work yet.
Next thing you know, you're going to be tasked with coming up with your ideas for the annual Christmas episode of The Hollywood Outsider.
Oh, yeah. You are a listener of The Hollywood Outsider for the past, 8 years now. I've been every year at Christmas, I do a Christmas poem that kind of it rhymes. I'm the Dr. Seuss of the Hollywood Outsider crew, apparently. And I haven't even started that yet. So I got a lot of work to do for sure.
And at the same time, season 2 of Castle Rock is just a couple days away. Check out my companion podcast, The Castle Rock Zone, at castlerockzone.com. Jeff Gentry and I will help sort out what all the bonkers activities going on in that spooky town, what it all means. Check out our season 2 preview episode of the Castle Rock Zone. Just came out the other day at castlerockzone.com, as well as all the places where you hear podcasts, like where you're listening to this one right now. Huge thanks going out to listener Bryant for supporting the show at the $24 Willie Wood level. And how about those Texas-only Green Bay Packers fanatics and their $12 pledge level for the podcast as well? Thank you so very much.
And Brett Favre would surely love these $4 Packers Fan Podcast supporters: Jeff Summerfield, Lawrence Harvey, support dedicated to lifelong Packer backer Randy Westgame of Wausau. Also supporting at the $1 Curly Lambeau level, we welcome brand new Curly level supporter Joe Christensen. Thank you so much there. Also Matt Haig, Hank Davis from the TPE network of podcasts, and lastly Aaron Peterson from the Hollywood Outsider. If you'd like to check out how you too can financially support the podcast at a level to match your budget, and maybe even get some fun Packers Fan Podcast logo merch, you can find details at patreon.com/Packers Fan Podcast. Thanks so much to everybody, and go Pack Go.
And we're going to wrap up the show this week so Scott can go work on his karaoke singing. And we want to remind you that the Unofficial Packers Fan Podcast, not yet affiliated with the NFL or the Green Bay Packers, just saying, media at PackersFanPodcast.com is the email to use if you can make it happen, though.
Also, you can follow us on Twitter at Packers Fan Podcast, or if you'd like to follow me personally, my handle is at GoCastScott, and Wayne's is at Wayne Henderson. And please join our Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community by visiting PackersCommunity.com and join that conversation.
And we want you to be part of the next episode of the podcast, even with a quick turnaround. Let your voice be heard. Call us right after the victory. Right after that victory. Call us at 920-3PACK-GO and be part of that episode.
Be sure to subscribe in your podcast player of choice so you don't miss an episode. And right now, it is time for the Texas-only Green Bay Packer Fanatics group to get us ready to beat the Chiefs.
This is Dawn down here in Texas, a.k.a. Granny Cheese.
Hi, I'm James.
Hi, I'm Kim.
Hi, I'm Melissa.
Hi, I'm Susan.
Hi, I'm Carrie. Hi, I'm Lisa Montgomery, and we want to say,
Go Pack, go!